And that is Congressman Adam Schiff of California, the top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman Schiff, welcome back to the show, sir.
Thanks, Chuck. Good to be with you.
Let me first ask you on the Mike Flynn situation and get you to respond to what the White House press secretary said today. Does he have a point that the Obama administration, whoever was in charge of this, that something did fall through, that maybe Flynn never should have gotten his national security clearance renewed? Do they have a point on this or not?
Well, we're trying to get the documents. We've requested them on a bipartisan basis in the Intelligence Committee, the same documents that the Government Reform Committee has already received. But no, they don't have a point in the sense that whatever the process was and whether Mike Flynn sought to get a renewal of his security clearance for the new position of the National Security Advisor, whatever the facts may be, and we're looking into that, it was the Trump administration responsibility to vet this guy, and there ought to be red flags that were going up all over, considering that he was fired by the previous administration. He had gone on a publicized trip and sat next to Putin at this dinner, which was inexplicable. And at the same time, right around the time of the election, he wrote an op-ed calling for the United States to turn over this cleric, Fethullah Gulen, to Erdogan. It was a bizarre op-ed for him to write and should have raised a lot of flags about why was he advocating this position. Now we know he was getting $500,000 to advocate that position. But no, the Trump administration can't blame Obama. But I'm confident of this, Chuck. On the last day of the Trump administration, Trump will be blaming Obama for something. Evidently, the policy of this administration is the buck stops with Barack Obama. So that, I think, we can be confident of.
Let's talk about the investigation. Let's be frank here. After the whole back and forth with the chair that has now recused himself, Devin Nunes, a lot of people wrote your investigation off. Many Senate Republicans and Democrats said, don't know what's happening at the House. We're hoping the Senate can get we'll run this. And they almost used you guys as a punching bag to say, hey, look, we're going to run a responsible investigation. What have you and Mike Conaway, who has taken over for Devin Nunes on this specific investigation, what do you plan on doing to bring credibility back to your investigation?
Well, I think the history is this. We went into this investigation, I think, in a very deliberate, nonpartisan way. It was blown up with the chairman's trip to the White House and all the subterfuge about the documents that were reviewed there and then returned to there. But nonetheless, I think the members of the committee wanted to do a thorough and independent job, set out to do that, and we had that cloud over the committee as a result of that White House trip. That cloud, I think, is now being removed. Mike Conaway, I think, is doing a good job. We're working together very well. We've rescheduled one of the hearings that was canceled. We're trying to reschedule the second, an open hearing. We've already invited witnesses to come before the committee. So we are very much now full speed ahead, exactly where we should have been if we hadn't had the whole White House incident blow things up for a period.
Now, look, CNN reported that there's a witness list of between 36 and 48 people. Is that correct? And are all of these going to be invited witnesses, or are you going to have to subpoena anybody?
Well, I don't want to get into the specific either numbers of how many witnesses or the names of people we've invited, but we've certainly invited a considerable number to come and be either interviewed, deposed, or appear before the committee in a hearing. Mr. Conaway and I have also agreed to the process for this, how we'll request documents of these witnesses. We've also agreed that we'll seek to get their cooperation voluntarily, but we stand prepared to subpoena as necessary to get the materials and information that we need. So we've agreed to the process. We've begun, in terms of our witness list, to actually invite those people before the committee. And, I think it's also important we're going to try to do as much as we can agree on in public. I feel very strongly about that because I think if we conduct this investigation wholly in private closed session and then at the end of the day throw open the doors and tell the public to believe what we've come up with, that's not likely to have public confidence. So I'm really, frankly, very pleased with where we are. I think we're back to moving forward again.
Have you and Congressman Conaway, are you still actively reviewing the request by Mike Flynn to essentially trade trade immunity for testimony?
I think it's really premature for us to be considering that. request before we have a chance to interview a lot of other witnesses, find out what we can learn that's relevant without having to give any kind of immunity. Then we'd want to sit down with the Justice Department, find out what their equities are, and given the issues that have come up over his failure to report this income, the fact that he took the income at all, and whether there are issues of false statements, there's a lot of Justice Department potential equities here. And finally, we would want a detailed proffer from him or his counsel as to what he would say before we give any kind of blind grant of immunity. So that's still, I think, quite a ways off in the distance.
You know, about the last time you were on this show a month ago, you told us that there was, quote, more than circumstantial evidence, unquote, that there was collusion between Trump associates and Russia. Do you still believe that to be the case? And it's a charge you made once, but you've not made it again. Any reason?
No, I've said that continually. In fact, I said that again earlier today. That remains my view. And, you know, I offer that in contrast because I know some of the members of our committee have said quite to the contrary. They believe there's no evidence. But I can't go into the particulars. I'll have to wait until we get through the investigation to be able to share whatever it is that we're able to prove. But I will say this, Chuck, it's not just my view. The fact that the FBI is doing an investigation, open one in July, is continuing to this day, that is not something I think they undertake just on a hint or a suspicion. I think they need a basis to investigate a major presidential campaign or its associates. So I don't think this is simply my own perspective on things. I
understand that, but you know, there's this growing chorus of lawmakers, frankly, Democrat and Republican, who I talk to, who say, you know, where's the there on this? Where's the fire? There's been a lot of smoke. Why isn't it obvious where the fire is?
Well, you know, and on this I have to say, those of us that have worked on investigations before, and particularly large white-collar investigations, and this is sort of in that category, understand it takes a long time to be able to investigate evidence of this nature, particularly when you're dealing with evidence that may be held by a hostile foreign government or may involve witnesses spread out throughout the globe. This is not something that's easy to prove in the best of circumstances. And you have to layer onto that the fact that we have a full-time day job in overseeing the intelligence agencies. Of course. It's one of the reasons, Chuck, why I'd feel a lot more comfortable if we had an independent body, an independent commission also doing this work that would be completely immune from any political pressure, but also would be staffed appropriately. So for those that are saying, how come you haven't shown the proof yet and wrapped up your investigation yet, I can only say we are trying to move expeditiously, but people shouldn't expect this is something we can complete overnight, or that we're going to be at liberty to disclose evidence as we go along. That's not how the investigation is going to work. Of course. Congressman Adam Schiff, ranking Democrat on House Intel. Thank you very much, and an important reminder he just made, this is a full-time job, this investigation, and these guys have a